All right. Good afternoon, good evening. Hopefully, everyone is doing well. Super excited to start this session off. Let me make sure that we are good to go. Let me just double check something. All right. So, for everybody who is on today on our lovely Sunday setups, this is a day that I like to take a moment and really get my mind right and really get mentally prepared for the upcoming week ahead. A lot of the times people start their weeks on a Monday, but as traders with the markets opening on Sunday, you always need to be one step ahead, right? So taking that weekend, taking your Sunday to get prepared and mark up your charts will definitely get you one step closer. Now, with that being said, aside from being able to tap in and understand a little bit more about your market, one of the key things you always want to get set up is being able to identify, the best time to tap into the charts. Not only that, but I want you guys to truly tap in on this elevated experience, right? And understand that throughout the week, educators like myself, IT, Osman, we're literally showing you and helping you enhance your trading experience. So the key thing I want you guys to also be able to do is understand and know whenever there's a webinar going on, whether if that's inside the Facebook group community or whether if that's within our elevated trading. So I want to make sure you guys are tapping in with this whole experience. Today we're definitely going to do a little bit of a foundation and really getting us set up for this upcoming week. But best believe, as you tap into these other sessions, you'll be learning smart money concepts, intraday sniping techniques that could really maximize your trading, right? So with that being said, today I want to make sure that the first thing you do and you understand is, your journey is definitely different from my journey, and the key thing I want you to be able to do is I don't want you to compare your journey to anyone else's because we're all different, right? A lot of times when you're looking at this industry, you see people making hundreds of the thousands of the millions of dollars. And I want you to realize is that their journey can be completely different from what you thought or what you think it is, right? So I want you to just hone in on your trading right now. And I want you to identify, what time of the day are you tapping into the markets? I know you have a money maker, a 9 to 5, whatever you want to call it. What times can you truly commit to learning the ins and outs of your market? Because a lot of the times what happens is there's so many inconsistencies and people are not accountable, and that's what's going to hold you back, right? So the first thing you want to be able to do is identify. For example, me, I like to trade London sessions. So anywhere from 2 a.m., you'll catch me in the market. I'll be looking at, look, my euros, my GBPs, right? We'll be coming off of an Nzd session and an AUD session, but best believe each specific currency is going to move during a specific time. Now, one thing I want you to notice is there's this blackout zone. For anyone who's new, I personally don't prefer to trade after 4 p.m. because that's when the New York session is closing. That's when the spreads tend to spike, and there's some just some inconsistencies around that time, right? So just stay away from the market so you don't deal with headaches, right? Now, aside from that, we're definitely going to be tapping into Trading View. And this is going to be where we're going to start looking at not only the tools that we're using inside our elevated experience, but also the charts that we're checking out, right? So for example, once you've identified which currency you're going to be tapping into, the next thing you want to be able to do is then understand, okay, what time am I doing it? And what is going to move that currency, right? So if you are inside your Trading View, there's 2 indicators that you should have access to. The first one is our Enigma system, which looks like this, right? And the second one is our pullback pips indicator, which looks like that, right? So I just want to make sure you guys have both of these indicators because they're just going to help you just dominate, right? It's all about staying consistent, right? And identifying each and every thing you're doing. Like for example, when you're looking at this Enigma trade setup, right, that came out, let's just say hypothetically we got this setup that comes out and we're identifying it. What are some consistencies? What are some of these matters that we're looking at to see how this market is moving, right? The first one is, hey, is our pullback pips bearish? Since we're bearish and we have a selling opportunity, those are two confirmations, right? Because Enigma is an institutional system, right? So what that allows you to do is now have two confirmations. And now the key thing you want to be able to do is ask yourself, where's the best place for me to have my stop loss, right? Looking at any type of market condition, when you have a trade setup, you can already identify where's the best place, always above structure. But you're going to notice when you have the stop loss above structure where the market has no business going, it's always going to be great, right? Because you already know, since we are bearish, that means as long as the market is below these levels, we're going to take that bad boy down, right? And it's just a matter of being patient, right? Because you eventually see, yeah, we do get stuck in some consolidation, but I also want you to notice what this market is doing. That structure level gets tested as a rejection, right? I want you to start noticing as this market is going down, is it actually breaking higher? No, right? So all of these are all indications that you're still in that possible bearish situation as long as what happens? As long as the market breaks this area that we call support, right? So when you're using these two tools, you're going to notice how powerful and how potent they are, especially when you just have just the basics of the market understanding in the charts, right? So once it breaks through, let's see, bada bing, bada boom, where did it go? Bam, right? What do you see that the market did, right? First off, stop loss was never hit, but these are all different confirmations to helping you and guiding you through this market. Being able to identify, yes, if you push this market down for some nice pips, great. Take your entry, take your stop, take your partials, right? Understand that this confirmation is also valid because you still have your targets to push this market to, and now you can do what? Minimize your risk because the market has no business breaking above that. You know, all of these are ways for you to maximize your pullback pips indicator on top of your Enigma trading system, right? Yes, it makes sense. It makes sense. So when you're able to do that, best believe you'll be catching some pips, right? If you would have already came in on this first setup, by the time this next setup comes in, you got to ask yourself, man, I'd already be securing some profits. See where can I find an effective pullback, right? You will get some stop losses hit here and there, but best believe with this system that's over 70% accurate, you'll be winning more than you're losing, right? So with your pullback pips indicator and your Enigma alert system, this right here is going to be two powerhouses that each and every one of you guys should be identifying, especially when you're in the markets, right? Now, what I want to do is I want to just take a moment, and if you guys are looking at any specific currency pairs, definitely feel free and drop it in the chat, right? Drop them in the chat. I'm just gonna, since it's Sunday, I'm just gonna take all of these bad boys off. And let's just see what we got. Let's see, let's look at some of these GBPs. I'm gonna be looking at some GBPs this week. We can look at some euros. Let me see, what else is everyone looking at for this week? What we're gonna do first is we're just gonna do a classic scan with Enigma, right? On my 30-minute, on my 1-hour time frame, I'll identify any setups, right? So like, for example, AUDJPY had this amazing setup on the 1 hour, boom. It already hit that, almost that target 3. I think that was like 80, look at that, 100 pip move, sauce, right? So I'm just gonna go through each trade setup and just identify and see if there's any market opportunities with Enigma. If not, then not, right? I remember this trade from last week. Oh my goodness. Like literally on Sunday, a day like today, we were breaking down Enigma in this setup that not only is set up, but at the same time, why I would have gotten in at this point, right? So Enigma is always that framework that's just going to help you see the market. Don't overcomplicate the market, right? Let's see. This one's interesting. I want to see what we got with Gcad. Okay, Enigma card this setup, so let's put that out. All right, I'm just looking for valid setups right now. All right, anything that's old, like these bad boys took off, bada bing, bada boom, nice. Right now we gotta wait. Let me see what else we got. Nothing on EJ. Wow, those sells on EJ were crazy. Oh my goodness, imagine being holding that bad boy. Sheesh. EG, let's see what we got. EG was some nice sauce as well. So for right now, it doesn't look like we got a lot of active setups. Oh, EA, okay. Let me see, ECAD, nothing right now currently, but we could keep an eye on that. And let me bring out these other pairs because I just want to make sure, show you guys just a very simple way that when you identify the setup, it's not just, hey, let me just get in, but see what the market's doing, see how it's moving, see how you could maximize and minimize that risk, right? So we got some GBPs, we got some euros, we got some AUDs, NZDs. Let me bring out some USDs real quick. All right, perfect. Let's see what else we got. Ooh, AU was interesting. Sheesh Louise. That was nice. Ooh, okay. This is interesting. Like Aud Cad, right? Because if you notice this first setup, sheesh, it still hasn't hit target 3. Neither has this setup, right? But it did reach target 2. You know, this first setup, this pullback was necessary. So I'm kind of interested in that. That's Aud Cad. Right? Okay. I want to see AUD Swiss as well. All right. NZD. Okay. NZD USD. All right. So just identify all of these setups. Any valid setups, we're just clicking on it. Ooh, Nzd Cad. Okay. This one's not ready. That was old, but those were nice. Nothing yet. Let me see. USD Cad. That was a good move. Nice, 2 good moves. Sheesh. USD Swiss. All right, those were solid moves on USD Swiss. So, all right, so this is what we got for tonight, right? We got these pairs that for right now are showing active Enigma setups, right? Of course, throughout the night, if there's any setups that come out, as long as you got your system set up with the alerts, bam, you'll get it on your mobile device, right? If not, you'll get the Discord set up whenever there's a confirmation with COT for the week. So what I'm doing is I'm just gonna go through each one right now. And one of the things we're just identifying is where is this market currently at? Where can we get in if that's the case, right? So for example, let's start with Nzd Cad. Now that we have an Enigma setup that's identified, right? The next thing I would do is, let me go to my 30 real quick. Make sure it's also there. Bada bing, bada boom. Great, right? So I'm going to grab my pullback pips indicator. And my first question is, are we bearish, right? Because last time, look, Enigma gave out a buy when we were what? Bullish. Confirmation, check. We take the trade, boom, we do great, right? So right now, seeing that this market is what? Bearish on pullback pips, and Enigma is helping us sell the market, this is good. This is telling me, okay, I like the setup, right? And what's even better is with Enigma, it already gives you your targets. But if you have your pullback pips indicator, you know that you're going to take your targets structure to structure. So what that means is if we could find a selling setup, best believe I'll be looking to push this market not only into this target, but definitely a little lower as we move level to level, right? As long as we're what? Minimizing that risk. So let me just grab my 1 hour, see where we at. This is interesting right here, right? Especially right there. That this is going to be an interesting play. Now, the only question I have, right, is seeing that we have our parameters set up, pullbacks is confirming it. My question is, where can I get in? Where's the best place for me to get in right now? Because yes, it just broke this low, but if you noticed, you know, one of the key things that you always want to see the market do is move, right? That's why we always like to get in on a trending market. But what's really nice to see that this market is doing is what? These, let me take this one. This is what's really nice. Let's take pullbacks off real quick. You see these structure levels? They're casually doing what? They're lower, 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 lower. So technically, if you look at this market right now, as long as it does not break above these highs, you are good to sell the market into these lows. right? So right now, seeing this market pull back is exactly what we need if we can get it, right? Not saying we're going to get it, but if it can get there, oh man, that helps you even keep it your art even better. So this is what we're going to do. We already know that we're bearish on both ends, pull back and Enigma. Let's do a little bit more dissecting, right? Looking at Nzd Cad, the next thing I want to know is how are my currencies moving, right? Because clearly, what's going to push this? The NZD and the CAD, right? So right now, since we're in that NZD session, I'm just going to grab my New Zealand dollar futures real quick, and I just want to confirm, hey, is this possibly bearish, right? My confirmation is this possibly bearish? So let me just grab, okay, we are bearish on pullback pips. That's great. You know, let me just go to the hours, see what's happening on these bigger time frames. It's showing that we're bearish. So what that means is if we can clearly pull back, I'm happily able to take out some of these lows, right? And if that's the case, then it would be great, right? It would be great to see we're on Nzd Cad. It would be great to see some type of pullback to take us down into these lows, right? That would be phenomenal, right? Later on, you can do the same thing with the CAD, see how it's going to move it and impact it. But right now, let's see what we got here. Because I actually like this setup. This is going to be my first trade for the week. Doesn't look bad at all. Right? The only thing I want to do now is catch the pullback. So I'm going to grab my tool and I'm going to identify this pullback area here, this one right here. I doubt it'll go all the way up there, but we got it there. And then I'm going to grab these. Yeah, we could put stops right there. Boom. Perfect. Perfect. Watch this, right? This is how we could just do some damage. Enigma already helps us identify the institutional setup, right? You see this level where this stop loss is, this is an interesting point because I'm asking for me to get a better R to R is to see it pull back, right? And we already know since it's bearish, we're just looking for the rejection of all of these wicks, right? So right now, Nzd Cad is a very interesting spot. I like it a lot. Me personally, I'm going to try to make sure that as long as it's under this trend line, but it can pull back, it's going to do wonders on our R to R, right? Just imagine just a little bit of a pullback, nothing too extreme. You can place your stops and look, have the same targets. You literally turn a 3-to-1 into a 5-to-1, almost a 6-to-1 if you can get that pullback, right? So that's the best thing that I would like to see, because as long as it's under that trend line, right? As long as it's under that rejection, that'll be enough for me to take that bad boy down. This setup doesn't look bad though. Just look for some rejection and move it down. If we don't get this and the market says, you know what, I want to start taking out some of these levels, well, guess what? Once it breaks lower, anywhere on pullback land is valid to take it down, right? So there's always a hey, I'm identifying the best play, but then eventually you got to react to what's moving. If the market breaks a new low, you got to realize it might not come up this high. It might just use these rejections, which is great because that's the original setup that we got, which was a nice 3-to-1, right? And at that point, you know what I'm saying? So Nzd Cad, do not sleep on it. I'm gonna actually keep that one there. I like it a lot. Gcad. Now let's talk about Gcad. All right. So if you notice, whenever I'm looking at an Enigma setup, my first question is, does the pullback pips confirm it, right? So looking at Gcad, like these, hold up, on the 1 hour right here. Like this setup right here, these bullish pushes, we would have confirmed it. And the great thing is if you know the time you're trading GBP, I usually trade it already, what, 2, 3 in the morning? Remember, all the way up until what, New York session? That's the time I'm trading, right? So you need to have a specific time that you're in the markets identifying, you know, these opportunities. So right now, currently, this is an interesting thing right now, because if you noticed, Enigma gave out this setup, right? And let's just do a quick playback. so you guys can see and feel a little bit of what you'd experience, right? So like, for example, looking at pullback pips, you see we're bullish. Enigma gives out this setup, boom, pullback says we're bearish. You know, at this point, you're the only question you're asking yourself is, how can I get in on this setup, right? And minimize my risk to the fullest extent, right? Because if you notice, now that the market, you know, slowly, this is what just happened. The market went like that. What you got to realize is the market's going to pull back, right? Enigma gives us this setup, but remember, this could potentially still be the move. You know, it keeps the stop losses there because that's part of the game, taking your stops, having a better R to R, having a better accuracy so you're not emotionally attached, right? You're going to have winners, you're going to have losers, but I'm just showing you how to maximize, right? So just looking at this setup, you already got to be in the instinct of asking yourself, where are these high points that the market, right? Because right now we're seeing that we're bearish. Where can it pull back to, right? And I want to show you that because if you see that, you're able to now identify, you know, what the market's doing. What is the market doing? Well, look, right here, this level that I had, what was so important about it? Well, it was a level of structure right here, right? So the market is what? Rejecting that. So far, although that stop loss got touched, I'm still asking myself, what is true about this Gcad, right? And if you want to do some more dissecting, if we grab this high point, we grab this low point, where did it retrace to? 786. That's a little ugly in my book, you know, just because it's only going to push the market into like the 127, the 113. So let me just, you know, that could be one of these plays for right now. As long as it stays below this, right? So I'm just showing you this setup because my question is, okay, right now, I know right now is not the time for GBP, right? Pullback pips is actually bearish, which is good because it helps me identify, hey, if we're bearish, I'm looking for sells. Great. Enigma gave me this sell. I feel like it was possibly a little early, but, you know, the stop does get hit, but it's holding. So my only question is, what is the GBP going to do, right? So let me just grab my GBP. I just want to see, are you bearish? That's my first question. Boom, it is bearish, right? And what that means is, since we're bearish, what do I want the market to do? Yeah, stay bearish, but now we could take out these lows. And if that's the move for the GBP, then I know I can look at Gcad for a potential sell, right? As long as the GBP is functioning, if that's the move, right? GU, where you at? GU is actually, look, we didn't get a setup with Enigma, but look, pullback pips is already saying what? Sell, right? So these are all things that we're going to look into. So let's finish off with Gcad because this one's interesting. I want to go a little bit more into this. So literally, when we're watching this bad boy right now, the only thing we need to make sure is that if we want to take out these lows, right? If we want to take out, move from structure to structure, which is great, I would love it for tonight, right? We just want to make sure the market does not break that high, right? I'm going to repeat that. You want to make sure that the market does not break that high, right? Right now, it's just going to consolidate. It's going to be a little choppy. It's going to be a little ugly. But remember, you're still what? Bearish on your pullback pips. So what you're looking for is the market to just hold structure, which is right there. You see it? It's already there. So as long as it can stay rejecting at this level, if you want, you can have a little zone there. Then best believe I'm looking to target this level and this level. What that really turns into is a matter of time to identify a phenomenal setup that has good R-to-R potential, right? And for example, if you want to wait until, let's say you want to wait until the market starts breaking this level or even this level, what you could look for is look for the pull back, right? And even if you got to stop at 35 pips, the R to R still makes sense, right? So you don't have to be rushing this setup, but I definitely like it because once it starts breaking momentum to the downside, anything of a pullback will be great, right? Right now, what's really going to be important is this structure level right here that we have, right? So right now, I'd leave it alone, but I like it. I like this Gcad, keeping my eye on that, right? You see now, Gbpnzd, let me tell you a little bit about it and why it's doing what it's doing. On the 1 hour, we had a bullish setup on Enigma, right? And this is what's going to happen because you got to understand the GBP is one thing, but NZD is another, right? If you remember with the NZD, if we want the NZD to go down, that means it's going to push GN up, no matter what the GBP does, right? Of course, it would be great if it flows more naturally in a sense, but I want you to realize something. So far, when you look at this trade setup right now, it's not GBP time, it's NZD time. So you need to move like it's NZD right now, because right now, looking at this market, this is actually pretty interesting. It doesn't look bad at all. All right, let's look at this a little bit more. If we're looking at GN and it's saying, okay, we want to buy it. My next question is, what is pullback pip saying? Buy. Okay, so that's two confirmations. You know, as it's all about staying consistent, right? So if we're looking to buy, my next question is, where can I buy it and how high can I take it to, right? So let's just look at this. Hypothetically, if we say that we're going to buy Gbpnzd, we would want to buy it on something we call a pullback, right? A pullback, right? It's usually pulling back, retracing, whatever you want to call it. And there's specific points between, of course, the 382 to the 618. Now, what's going to be interesting with this one is, if you notice right now, if we are buying this, where was it rejecting once? That's going to be interesting. All of this, right? Because it was pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down. And now it broke through and it gave us a wick. So all of this allows me to say, hey, if we are buying it, and Enigma gave us a setup, a nice R to R, if I wasn't mistaken. Let me see. It's saying, you know what? Take that push past these levels of structure. Let's just look at something, right? That's easily pushing up. Let me go to my 30 real quick, right? You know, I don't even need to overdo it. You know, if anything, I'm looking for a clean pullback. And guess what? I'm taking it to this first level of structure. That's 100 pips. And guess what? My R to R, I'll be able to keep it minimized, real small, right? So that right there would just be something that would happen naturally if the NZDs were to move. That's the play that would happen. Now, best believe, keep in mind later on what this market is capable of doing, right? So what I mean by that is right now we're in NZD. Later on will be GBP, right? I'm just looking for a nice pullback. Because the R to R, look at that. If you can find the clean pullback, you can turn a 3 to 1 into almost a 5, even a 6 to 1, right? So this is going to be a nice play that I do see. It can definitely happen. It can easily pull up, right, and make that move, especially with the NZD, right? Like if we look at NU, it's already bearish, right? So this bad boy definitely needs to pull back and drop a little, right? So let's move on to the next chart. That one actually, I like it. EA, right? EA, Euro AUD. Ooh, like right now, we gotta leave it alone. Because these last setups were nice for the bullish push, but right now it's bearish, right? In fact, it's not just bearish, it's just consolidated. It's just moving sideways. So whenever you have charts like that, you need to leave them alone, right? Even though pullback pips is saying we're bearish, the only way that we're going to confirm this bearish push is if it breaks through that mess, right? Until then, we don't see much. We just have structure and structure that we're bouncing between, right? Leave it alone. Let this market marinate a little bit more and figure itself out. So that one's no bueno. Ecad. Enigma says, let's see, nada right now. It did give us some nice bullish buys. So since there's nothing right now, we got to leave it alone. Leave it alone. All right. So Aud Cad, you see, let's talk about it. That's good. I actually like it. if you notice, we're bearish right now on pullback pips, which is great. You know, we did get this setup right here. I feel this is still an active setup. Right? We had, ever since that setup came around, what did the market do? It actually went down, it pulled back, it went lower. In fact, this level was never broken, so it did pull back. And my only question is, what is it trying to do now? Right? The play that I'm looking for is what? Pull back and go lower, because we do have some nice targets to reach on both setups, right? So if that's the play that I'm looking for, hey, how can I find a bearish setup? You know, we already have these parameters from these last setups. So it's just a matter of asking ourselves, where can this bad boy pull back to? Right? What's good is when the market made its move, it was bearish, right? And then as it casually decided to pull back, we didn't need to be dealing with this, right? This was a consolidated ugly market until boom, right now it's saying, hey, now that we're bearish again, where can I get in, right? And eventually push these markets to these targets. So I'm actually pretty interested. I'm going to keep this R to R very minimal, but just to give you an idea, I do want it to see if it could pull back into this point. Right? If this bad boy can pull back, right? If it could pull back, that would be great. We'll easily take it into the targets that we had and minimize our risk. You know, have a 13 pip stop, right? That's the type of play that I'm looking for on this Aud Cad. Keep that R to R great, so you're maximizing on every setup. I like it. I like it. You know, AUD Swiss. Let's see. AUD Swiss, we did get some nice sells off of it. And my only question coming with AUD Swiss is, where can I get in? All right, let's just see something. Like if you notice, we got some structure right here. The market could push down here, right? That's great. So we do have some nice targets we could take this market to. But my question is, where's the best place for me to get in, right? Because right here, it was all the way up top when it pulled back and dropped low. So my question is, where can this market pull back to, right? Where can you pull back to? And if you can pull back to a specific area, you know, my next question is, can you really hold, right? And what I mean by that is I really don't want this market to break above this high. And what that helps me identify is if I could find a setup on a nice pullback, I'm going to have my stop loss, what, 20 pips? And guess what? My R to R right here, boom, that target 3 makes it a 4 to 1. Makes sense. I like it. Pullback pips is bearish. Latest setup is showing me nice bearish moves. If I can get the pullback, I'll like the move, right? So those are some solid setups for right now. And let's see, NU, NU, let's talk about it. Heck yeah, let's talk about it, right? Looking at this Nzd USD, what's the first thing we see? Okay, Enigma gave us a setup, boom. What's the next thing we confirm? Pullback pips is telling us that we're bearish, right? So now I could come in and now I could get the magic done, right? So what I want to do here is when I'm looking at my hour, my 30-minute, I'm asking myself, where can the market pull back to, right? Where can it pull back to, right? There's always these 3 hot spots if it wants to continue the market. There's always a spot for a fake out, a spot for a reversal, right? Everything has a purpose with fibs, but these 3 areas are where we want the market to continue. Now, looking at this market right now, it would be great if it can come up and just drop off these levels, right? But right now with me, I want to get in, especially if we're looking at the 1 hour, right? Let's go to Enigma real quick. If we see this market is pulling back, right? And we have these 3 areas of precise pullback where we can see the market react off of, right? We got this wick, we got this level of structure. This high actually takes out that structure. Keep it in mind that if it does pull back, have your stop loss slightly above that, right? What that allows you to do is see a little cushion, right? Even if you give it 20 pips, You see it a little cushion, and you still are going to take it into these levels, better R to R, right? Now, do I think it's going to pull back and try to hit stop loss before making the move? I don't know. I like this because it helps maximize the R to R. Me personally, if I'm looking for a pullback, I'm looking for it to happen at one of these three levels. So if you notice with this Nzd USD, I want it to pull back, right? If it can pull back to what? Past areas that are going to represent something, right? Look at this. This was what? Supportive. It broke through and now it's resistant. Oop. So if the market were to pull back, this would be that area that I would want to see the rejection again, so we could still to make it low, especially if pullbacks is confirming it. And what's great is we have not only these levels of structure, but once we break through all of this mess, we can easily flood into this next level, right? So this setup is going to look like this, where I'll be looking to push it into these targets, having my stop loss above that, right? And if I can catch the pullback, that would be amazing. Yeah, that's my Nzd USD. I like all of those setups, right? So I'm going to keep them in mind. And let me know if you guys have any questions, because sheesh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are my 6 for today. Those are my 6 for today. You know, everything else is a little choppy, so you got to be a little patient. You know, if the market hasn't given us the setup, we can't do much, right? So like, for example, Enigma is not telling me to sell or to do anything, but I know pullback pips is bearish, right? So it's like, by being able to still be able to use these tools as you're trading, you'll be able to see and identify how this market is moving. You know, if you remember with Gcad, I'm looking for this bad boy to potentially drop, right? So if I want to see some drop on that GBP, what do you think I want to see with GJ? I want to see that bad boy drop. And what's even better is that it recently, I'm not going to say recently, but you know, if you look at this here, let me replay this so you guys can see what I mean. When you have the market already identifying your structure levels, it helps you already see the playbook, right? And what I mean by that is, if you're bearish, you already know you do not want the market to break above these highs, right? It could retrace or pull back, right? And that's why we always grab the highest and the lowest. And if we are retracing or we're pulling back, we're going to pull back into these areas, right? So if you remember, but when I have the setup, I'm also setting up. I know that the market cannot break above this high, and I know the perfect retracement would react off of this box. So when the market does decide to react off of that box, you see it, right? You're going to see that rejection. I believe that's where it eventually decided to take off. Boom, right? And if you notice, what did it do? It went from this level of structure, which it took out, and boom, took the next level of structure. You see, what I want to be able to show you is how you can get into the market, but at the same time, realizing places to get out of the market so you're not stuck in the market when it pulls back against you. Imagine that, right? Imagine getting in on the right moment, closing your trade, and boom, you're done for the day, right? So the great thing with this setup is we already saw where it rejected off of, right? For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, you grab your fib tool, you grab the high point, you grab the low point, and there's going to be a few numbers right here. One of them represents a fake out area. The next one represents continuation, right? So when you look at this chart, what do you see that the market did? It literally reacted off of these levels. So with that being said, that's what created that momentum, right? So this is actually a great setup. I like it. I'm keeping my eyes on it. Just because if you notice, if we actually fast forward, right? If we fast forward, what I'm noticing is that this market broke these key levels, right? These key areas in price. And since we broke that, that's where I want to see the pullback, right? And if you're familiar with the pullback, you already know I'm going to grab my high point, I'm going to grab my low point, and there's going to be 3 sweet spots. The 382 right now, if you look at this, is that where I want to get in? No. Remember, we had up here, this is our area of interest. The next spot is our 50, our 618, and our 707. You see, right here, the 707 is always that fake out, that let me just take you out and be a pain, especially those who think it's going to be a perfect 618. So what I just said, pretty much down to simple terms, is I want this bad boy to pull back. And these levels that were supportive are now going to resist. And not only am I going to push to regular structure, we should be able to continue that market. And if we could find a setup like that, best believe we can really keep a nice R to R. Watch this, 35 pip stop loss, right? And guess what? Our first level of target is right there. Our second level of target is right there. Boom, that's my trade setup. That's me. I like it. That's what I'm keeping my eyes on. Just see what the market wants to do as it pulls back and makes that move. If we can get that, I'll be keeping an eye on that. Let's see. G-Swiss is on. G-Swiss is another one. Look, G-Swiss is another one. Look at this. Oh my goodness. You know, I got to look at my GBPs because I'm going to be on it tonight. But I want you to see something. Look, the market goes down, it pulls back. It goes lower, it pulls back, right? It drops and now it says, hey, we're bearish. So what do you think I'm looking for? The pullback, right? Before it does what? Drops, right? So if you know that, you already noticed, look, when the market went from, let me show you guys something. When the market went, and I'm dropping keys for those people who are on, because I want to make sure you guys understand how to use these tools. No reason you shouldn't, and already be trading and already be documenting, right? So when the market created this low, that was our pattern to see the pullback. But look, let me grab my fibs, and you're going to realize we have our sweet spot of where we want to see that market pull back, right? So when you have an area of interest, it's just a matter of time before the market pulls back into that area of interest and makes a move off of it, right? So this is actually a good reaction because you know it reacted off of that perfectly. What did it actually hit? Well, look, it hit right here, this level, that's the 50%, right? So now that it hit the 50%, we could take that market on down, right? So right now, looking at this GBP Swiss, I'm actually very interested. Why? Because since we're bearish on our pullback pips, we know at least that the market should not break above this high. That's structure, right? If we're bearish, right? I don't want it to break that high. It could do what it wants to do over here, do a little dance for a few hours. You know, what time is it? Is it 10? Oh, it's only 9:30. It could do what it wants to do, right? But what I really wanted to do is if I grab the high point and I grab this low point, there's going to be three areas. It already hit the 382, the 50. So there's two other sweet spots I want to think about entering at. I'm going to see if it wants to fake us out at the 707 or hold the 618. And when you look at G-Swiss, what's so good about this is what else can we do? Let's just restrict the market, right? We want this bad boy to come into this area and reject, right? So right now, all of that right now is going to serve in power for me to look at it and identify where can I see this bad boy reject off of, right? That's my interest with G-Swiss. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, if we were supportive over here and we broke through, boom, we became resistant. That was a perfect trade to the downside. Now that we created momentum, my next question is where can I get in respecting what? Structure, right? Placing my stop loss above where the market has no business. And then I could grab my pullback pips indicator. And guess what? I'm going to not only confirm that we're bearish, which we are, but boom, I'm going to push it into structure. And if this magic number right here is above 3, which it is, it's a setup. It's a setup. So yes, I'm very much looking at this G-Swiss on a bearish push to the downside. Sheesh. I don't even want to overwhelm anyone, but these are going to be my trades for tonight. If this is what's going to be interesting, and I got to see what this euro wants to do. Euro's been pushing down. You see, like that pullback was interesting. But I think it could go back up there one more time. I don't know. That pullback was interesante. Yeah, it might pull back one more time. We'll see. But I don't like it right now. I don't like this trade setup for right now. Because it's like, even if we're bearish, yes, we can take out these lows, but I always want to get in on, wait, where can I get in to minimize? All of this is just pullback territory. I can't do much with it right now, but it does want to take out some lows. These other setups look better, right? Think about it. If you get in on this setup and you say, okay, I want it to pull back, and you push it into this structure, you got to place your stop loss above that, right? Look at the magic number. It's not above 3. This is an unhealthy trade, right? If you could get a pullback and minimize your risk and maximize your profit, and boom, guess what? Now that makes a little bit more sense, right? If that were the case for it to happen. Now, if that's the rejection you're looking for, well, guess what? We just got to reject off of here to make sure market doesn't break above it and take it into our level. Nothing too complicated. For all this to happen, I like these other setups, right? So just be a little patient. Some of them are looking juicy. Some of them are setting up. It's just a matter of time before some of them make some moves. So patience is key. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. Drop them in the chat. If not, I will see you guys inside the Discord. And I hope everyone has an amazing night. And take care, fam.